in. And we brought them up because of the reported, the rumor out there that the Rangers had offered Zibanejad for JT Miller, and the Canucks turned them down. And what that says to me, though, is like both teams think the other team's the disaster, right? Like the Rangers are like, well, you guys are a disaster in Vancouver, so we'll take Miller and you can have our guy. Because I think collectively we'd all say at their best Miller's a better player, more effective player. I believe that. But Miller's not having a great year. He had 4 points the other night, but it's been a mess for him too. So I don't know how Vancouver can really, sure, you shut it down. Maybe that's not what you're looking for. But JT Miller's not having a great season at this point either.
But what gets in that, like I read that thing yesterday, and I'm like, but I don't know who Zibanejad's agent is, but Miller's reported through Pierre LeBrun had it yesterday, and that nobody's talked to them about it. Like both of them have a no trade clause.
Right.
So, like, how could they offer somebody if they don't know he's going to go anywhere?
That would complicate things.
Yeah, you would have to get a list from the player and say, hey, if I can make a deal to one of these X number of teams, would you go? And so, like, all these rumors that are flying around, like, I don't know what's based in fact. I think very little, actually, is my take on it. About the Rangers, like, why don't they make a big move? Well, most of the guys you'd move have a no trade clause. That's why you don't make a move. Like, you can't. It would be nice. I'm sure they'd love to. But you're kind of hamstrung with. We talk about a guy signing a deal and we're like, oh yeah, he's got a no move clause or a no trade clause, and it doesn't mean anything on the day he signs. But we see down the road it becomes a real hindrance.
With Ray Ferraro. So trying to determine what means what as it applies to the Maple Leafs. I'm curious your view on this, Ray, because, the four of us have talked about the Leafs for a decade, and we know their history and the playoffs and all that. Yet, they're halfway home here. They're leading the division. They're tied for first in the East. They've won 5 in a row. They've dealt with all these injuries, and they just keep plugging along. And it feels as if they're legitimately in a race to win their, finish with the top seed in the division, possibly top in the East, maybe the President's Trophy. Like, what is that worth to you in the grand scheme of things when trying to evaluate where the Leafs are at?
I think to me it means something because it just feels like they win a different way most times now. Like in the past, it's it always seemed to be, no matter what we talked about at the end of all that air was, yeah, but their goaltending's just okay, or yeah, but their defense is just okay. That's not been the case, and to me, that's what we've seen. That's the playoff way, is that you have to be able to defend, and you have to be able to get really good goaltending. Last year, they get to Game 7, they lose 2-1 in overtime, right? Like, they were starting to get there, yet it felt impossible that they could bring, if we go back to that time, it felt impossible that, oh my God, they're going to bring all these guys back and do it again, like run them back again. Yet, when Berube's hired, there's no question what the style of play is going to be or what the goal of the style of play is. Nobody has any question to it. And then I don't know how much gets talked about, like I'm not on every day anymore, in Toronto with you guys, but like Chris Tanev changes just about everything for them because they have one guy that doesn't give a damn if he gets 1 point or 100, and he'll never get 100, but he defends, he kills penalties, he rubs off on the other D, they find a good partner for him. I don't know. There's a reason he became a free agent, and there were a half a dozen teams like in a line trying to sign him because they know what he is. Dallas would have loved to have him back. So that all to me seems like they're just a different team. Knies is a player. Like I said, I was in Washington doing the Ranger game. Like I look at Cooley and Knies, and I'm like, these guys are so big and they skate so well. And Knies has got nice hands and he can play with good players. And I'm like, damn, like if you had somebody like that on an entry level or a first contract, that's just, it's worth more than what they can do because you can pay other people. The whole thing could have gone off the rails a couple of times, and it just, I don't know. I look at them differently. they're better than, clearly they're better than Boston. They're better than Tampa. I think Florida will add a defenseman. And so in the division, you're at the very top. You're with, I think Florida and Toronto is the two very best teams.
Yeah, I think yeah, go ahead.
And I was going to say, I think the sleeper stuff is out west. Like Vegas is really good, and they've got cap space, and so that means that they're in for something. Like they're gonna do their best to improve somewhere because they can, and they always do.
You mean acquire like 6 guys that are really good, like they usually do?
Yeah. And we're all gonna go, like, how the hell did they do that?
Yeah, I know exactly.
And they do it every year, and so why wouldn't they do it again? Edmonton is, they're on a really great run here, and they'll try to add a defenseman. I would think of some significance, even though right now it doesn't matter because they don't give up any goals and they score almost 4 goals a game. Winnipeg's really good, and then Colorado, if their goaltending is really straightened out, holy smokes! Like those are 4 monsters out west. I don't think the East has the same path this year. It just doesn't feel like it anyway.
Yeah, I think, because you got some new blood here, like we were saying, Washington playing as well as they are, and Jersey, now that they've got some goaltending and added a piece or two. Sheldon Keefe has always been a very, very good coach, especially in the regular season. He's got the same history and rep as the Maple Leafs. He's got to prove he can do it in the playoffs, but
right.
He pushes the right buttons in the regular season. Carolina, I don't know. I'm with you.
Okay, so there's a team, that I always kind of overlook them, and then they're always really good, and they don't quite ever seem to be able to get over that last hurdle, but they've got space to make a significant move too. And so it's funny, even just in this conversation, I've said like 5 times, they'd like to add this. Everybody's trying to add the same 5 players. And sometimes you get them and sometimes you don't. And it'll be really interesting. I think in my mind, there's 2 trade deadlines this year. There's one right before the Four Nations, when I think teams will really want to if they're going to make a significant move, they'd love to do it there, because then they've got that 10 days of the Four Nations to get get the player sorted into the new city and organized. And then, of course, there's the regular deadline.
Why wouldn't more teams do the Jimmy Rutherford trade deadline, which is if you want some guys, go and get them now, like now?
Well, I think because if we look in the East, there's like 8 teams think they're going to make the playoffs, and 5 of them aren't.
Yeah, but Toronto and Florida want a defenseman. One of them, why not just, if you're looking at the same guys, pull the trigger on it and get it over with?
What if the guy's Mike Matheson? Or, because I watched him the other night, and I'm like, damn, that guy can skate still, and he can play. And I think he would be a guy in Montreal, if they decide to move him,
Kris Versteeg and Francois Beauchemin to Los Angeles Kings, possible deal with Toronto Maple Leafs. In an interesting twist in the NHL trade market, new rumors are emerging about Kris Versteeg and Francois Beauchemin potentially being traded to the Los Angeles Kings. Sources indicate that the Kings, who have been one of the most active teams in recent weeks, are evaluating the possibility of bolstering their defense with Beauchemin, while Versteeg, who brings strong offensive capabilities, could be a key piece in a larger trade. This move becomes even more intriguing considering the Kings' surplus of offensive pieces available for trade, exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking for to strengthen their roster. It's speculated that with Versteeg included in the deal, the Leafs could be targeting a possible addition like Wayne Simmonds, along with a mid-range draft pick. This move makes sense given Simmonds' struggles this season, as he has yet to find his top form on the ice. To add more drama to the trade talk, there are even whispers that veteran defenseman Tomas Kaberle could be included, opening the door for a potential pursuit of Brayden Schenn. If completed, this move could have a significant impact on reshaping the Leafs lines and adding more depth to the team. Stay tuned for updates to see if these trades come to fruition and how they might shape the future of Toronto and Los Angeles this season. In an interesting twist in the NHL trade market, new rumors are emerging about Kris Versteeg and Francois Beauchemin potentially being traded to the Los Angeles Kings. Sources indicate that the Kings, who have been one of the most active teams in recent weeks, are evaluating the possibility of bolstering their defense with Beauchemin, while Versteeg, who brings strong offensive capabilities, could be a key piece in a larger trade. This move becomes even more intriguing considering the Kings' surplus of offensive pieces available for trade, exactly what the Toronto Maple Leafs are looking for to strengthen their roster. It's speculated that with Versteeg included in the deal, the Leafs could be targeting a possible addition like Wayne Simmonds, along with a mid-range draft pick. This move makes sense given Simmonds' struggles this season, as he has yet to find his top form on the ice. To add more drama to the trade talk, there are even whispers that veteran defenseman Tomas Kaberle could be included, opening the door for a potential pursuit of Brayden Schenn. If completed, this move could have a significant impact on reshaping the Leafs lines and adding more depth to the team. The Kings' situation is complex, as they are in the midst of a transitional period. Their aging roster, which includes a core group that led them to several successful playoff campaigns in the past, has seen some struggles in recent seasons. While there's a clear need for defensive help, Los Angeles may also want to improve their offensive consistency in order to make a deep playoff push. The combination of Boescheman's defensive reliability and Versteeg's offensive upside could help the Kings balance their lineup. From the Leafs' perspective, this potential deal is about retooling for the future. The team is in a position to compete, but they also need to solidify certain areas on the ice. Adding a player like Wayne Simmonds could provide the grit and scoring touch that the team has been missing. Furthermore, acquiring a mid-range draft pick could help with future team-building efforts, as Toronto looks to remain competitive while still developing young talent. The inclusion of Kaberle in the trade package could be a strategic move for both teams. The veteran defenseman, who has been with the Leafs for a long time, has seen his role diminished in recent seasons. However, his experience and offensive abilities could be a valuable asset for Los Angeles, who could use a steady presence on the blue line to help their younger players develop. The talk surrounding Brayden Schenn's potential involvement in the deal adds an intriguing layer to the negotiations. Schenn, a versatile forward, has shown flashes of brilliance but has been inconsistent at times. If the Leafs are able to land him, it could be a great opportunity for both the player and the team to find success together. Schenn's physicality, two-way game, and leadership could be exactly what the Leafs need to bolster their forward group. While the trade market can be volatile and unpredictable, these rumors suggest that both the Kings and Leafs are preparing for significant changes. For Toronto, this could mark the beginning of a new era, with a focus on adding more experience and depth. For Los Angeles, the trade could be a chance to retool and address some of the weaknesses in their lineup, while still competing for a playoff spot this season. Of course, as with any trade rumors, it's important to remember that these discussions are fluid and can evolve quickly. There are many moving parts in these types of negotiations, and both teams will likely have to weigh their options carefully before making any final decisions. It's also possible that other teams could enter the fray, further complicating the situation. In the coming days, fans of both teams will be watching closely to see if any concrete moves are made. The NHL trade deadline is fast approaching, and teams are scrambling to position themselves for a successful postseason. Whether this rumored deal materializes or not, the possibility of a major trade between the Leafs and Kings will certainly keep fans on edge as the season continues to unfold. The trade talks involving Versteeg, Boescheman, and potentially Simmonds or Schenn highlight the delicate balance that NHL teams must strike between immediate success and long-term growth. Both the Leafs and Kings are trying to find that balance, and this rumored